Bill White's Midday Rant is a short, sharp take on what's happening and how it relates to you. Agree or disagree? Listen to middayrant.com today.
Maybe you've heard the term ESG, and perhaps you're thinking that it has something to do with the environment or so-called global warming. And you could be forgiven for thinking that because people like Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and their ilk want you to think that. But you'd be wrong. So what is ESG? What does it mean? And what is it really? Well, the initials stand for, quote, environmental, social, and corporate governance, end quote. But they left out the C, which, according to the official description, is the most important part of what they're doing, because officially ESG, quote, is an approach to evaluating the extent to which a corporation works on behalf of social goals that go beyond the role of a corporation to maximize profits on behalf of the corporation's shareholders, end quote. That's what it says on the can. But what are these communists really doing? I say communists because, for example, out of 435 ESG stakeholder proposals in 2021, just 22 were conservative. By the way, ESG is where we began hearing the term stakeholder, which, according to ESG proponents, is everyone on the planet. But I digress. A March 2021 article published by Reuters entitled, quote, right-wing activists pose challenge to ESG crusade, end quote, went on to warn that conservatives were the problem. This means that Democrats and leftists generally, the neo-communists, are the ones behind the ESG movement, or what Reuters describes as a crusade. When you have a minute, go to Google or any other search engine and type in the name of your bank or mobile or cell phone provider or any large company, it doesn't really matter, and the letters ESG, and you will be shown a page dedicated to literally bragging about what that company is doing to increase its ESG rating. The most widely referenced ESG rating has an upper rank of AAA, dropping down to AA. Companies in these top two levels are leaders. Then moving down, there is A and BBB. Companies here are just average. But then it gets a little fuzzy. Moving down still further, you find companies ranked as BB, B, and CCC, and companies in the last two rankings are described as laggards. There are corresponding numerical scores for the ABC ranking from 0 at the very bottom to 10 at the top, and I think this numerical rating system is the best part of their movement. Let's get back to what this crusade is trying to do. ESG really has very little to do with the environment, or global warming, or climate change, or whatever these nuts are calling it now. And you know this because if it was really in aid of the environment, then they, the proponents of ESG, would be the first to reduce their carbon footprint. They would be the first to get rid of their private jets, or jet pool, what we call commercial air travel, because after all, they're megalomaniacs, not hypocrites, right? ESG is being sold to you as having something to do with the environment because most people are easily conned into thinking that CO2, the gas that every breathing creature on Earth exhales, is the real problem, and that this poison, the thing that's going to kill us all, that every green plant on Earth depends on to survive, has to be reduced. Because, well, not to put too fine a point on it, the people behind ESG know that most people are basically stupid. These environmental alarmists have been 10-yearing us for over 100 years. For more than 100 years, they've been telling us that we're all going to die, that the oceans are going to flood our coastal cities, and the polar bears are going to die. And while that hasn't stopped the richest among them from buying oceanfront properties, after all, who wants to kill the polar bears? Do you want to kill the polar bears? I mean, they want the right to murder children in and out of the womb, but we've got to save the polar bears, right? No, ESG has nothing to do with the environment. It is about controlling companies, making companies hire less qualified people in aid of an arbitrary color chart, and it aims to fleece shareholder value by forcing companies to change their focus with the aim of destroying the bottom lines of the most profitable companies in the world as a means of redistributing the wealth of those companies to a very few people at the expense of everyone else. Earlier I mentioned an ESG rating system, and as I said, I think it's a great tool to determine who I do business with, but maybe not as the supporters of ESG originally intended. From time to time, whenever I need to buy something that I can get from a number of companies, maybe that's telephone service or a bank account or even groceries, I check the ESG ratings of those companies, and I prepare a list. And then I go down to the bottom of that list and I buy from the lowest ranked companies. As it turns out, the laggards are the most sensible companies, run by CEOs who understand that their first allegiance is to the shareholders of their company, not the neo-communists who seek to destroy our society and who will succeed if you let them.